Well, if I knew the answer to that, I'd be making sure that everyone understood it immediately. And I think there's no one thing which is the most misunderstood. Um, I think a problem we have, particularly in public law, is for the case to be effective. About six, maybe 10, maybe 12 elements of a complicated jigsaw all need to be in place and ready for the hearing. And the bits of the jigsaw might be reports and statements coming in on time. It might be members of the family putting themselves forward on time. It might simply be the human beings who need to be at the particular hearing being well or turning up. Um, any one of these factors failing to be ready will cause delay, and you can't predict when you're setting hearings up which ones those will be. But the whole system is very vulnerable to something falling off. For example, it might be interpreters. They might be booked unexpected, and it's only on the morning of the hearing that you find that the expected interpreter hasn't come, or is late, or the two interpreters were booked but only one's come. And small things like that have a disproportionate impact on delay. So I wish there was one thing that was misunderstood that was causing delay, because if there was, I would have a T-shirt with it on the front, and I would march around the country to every court and tell them. But sadly, as I suspect you've found out, Morgan, it's not that easy. So we've got to keep our eye on all the elements of the case and do our best to make sure they function. Underlying what I've just described is one potential remedy, which I've always thought is very effective, is having a case progression officer within the court service who, in between the hearings, is the point of contact for the parties with the court, and is also charged with worrying about whether all the bits of the jigsaw are indeed in place prior to the hearing planned for a week's time, 2 weeks' time. And if they spot that something has fallen off the timetable, then they alert everybody to it and try and remedy it before the hearing takes place. And there was a time when case progression officers were the norm up and down the country. I'm thinking probably 15 years ago. And then there was a time when, for whatever reason, HMCTS took the view that there shouldn't be case progression officers, that they were an unnecessary requirement. But bit by bit, they're coming back. They're an essential element in the private law pathfinder model. They're also being seen as an essential element in some court centres for ordinary cases. And I think if there was something that could be done to remedy delay and meet the various causes of it, I would suggest a case progression officer in every court, looking at both the private law and the public law cases, would be a very, very valuable and beneficial change. The change that I'd recommend, if I'm allowed, a bit like Desert Island Discs, if I'm allowed two, one for private law, one for public law, the private law change, and anyone listening to me will now know what I'm going to say, is Pathfinder. And that is a wholly different model. And in the courts where it's been piloted, it seemed to have brought about a complete sea change in just the scope of the cases. They do not last very long at all, and they do not last very long at all because right up front, before the first hearing, the court has, and the parents have, a report from Kafkas or Kafkas Cymru, a report not dissimilar in size to the welfare report that often comes 9 months or so into the course of an on-running case, They have that before the first hearing. It's called a child impact report, and it includes an account of what the child uh, perceives as being the difficulties and what the child's wishes and feelings are about the future. And so immediately the focus of the discourse between the judges and magistrates and the parents is, well, look what's happening. Look what your child is saying. Look at the impact on your child of what you two are currently disputing. What are we going to do about this? It becomes a problem-solving approach rather than the court reacting to the dispute that the parents have as adults. And the accounts of the Pathfinder show that if there is a hearing, it will last just a couple of hours about what we do rather than about the history of the case. And most cases resolve either at the very first hearing or at that second hearing. And so delay isn't a factor. And so if I was looking for private law, one thing to change delay, absolutely front of the queue would be Pathfinder. In public law, I think the use of the issue resolution hearing, the IRH, is something that needs particular focus. There are some courts up and down the country who have a good record of avoiding significant delay, who use the IRH as it should be used. And there are other courts which I'm not being critical, and those courts tend to be the courts that are busier and are unable to deliver judicial continuity, where the IRH really doesn't bite and provide a significant opportunity to sort the case out. The cases ought to be prepared for the final hearing at the IRH so that the judge can roll up her or his sleeves and engage directly with the parties about the issues in the case and look to resolving them with no final hearing booked. But empty final hearings slots available in the court diary in 4, 5, 6 weeks time, so that if there is a need to resolve some issue at a final hearing, you can list it quickly. Where it goes wrong are in courts where the IRH is listed, and sometimes I've heard of judges having 4, 5, 6 IRHs in a day, and you can't possibly deliver an effective IRH if you've got that many cases listed. And also to have cases listed before judges where there hasn't been judicial continuity. The courts where it works very effectively are in the fortunate position in this respect of having fewer judges, so the cases can come back every time before the same judge, and the parties all know the direction of travel, because the judge has developed, after hearing submissions, a view of the case, and that the IRHs seem to be effective. So if we can make the IRH effective nationwide, then I think that would do a lot to reduce delay in public law. The fact that there are 42 different DFJ areas, and there have been at least 42 different initiatives over recent times. And my worry is that people are inventing the wheel separately, locally, sometimes to great effect, sometimes to less effect. And that's good. That shows local initiative, but it's not joined up, and it doesn't mean that everybody's getting the benefit of good ideas. I try to get the DFJs at the national conferences we have to share good initiatives with each other, and that goes so far, but it's not a solution. This is an old chestnut. I was part of the Family Justice Review, which met in 2010, 2011, and we had a hard look at governance and structure. And just before talking to you, Morgan, I got out my copy of the final report of the Family Justice Review to see what wisdom we came up with. And our solution and we were a small group, and I was the only lawyer on it, but Sir David Norgrove was the chair. Our solution was for there to be something called a family justice service, which drew everything together, which incorporated CAFCAS and other parts of the empire to deliver family justice with a proper board which had um, control in the sense of the ability to direct how things were operated, not only nationally but locally, so that there could be unified messages going out. As an interim measure, we recommended there being a National Family Justice Board and local family justice boards, and that's where we where we still are. Looking at it again, I don't necessarily think a family justice service is the right way forward, and I think we've got to make the structure we've got work better. I've noticed in the slides that you've prepared for the conference, which I now can't get up on the screen, but here we are, that you particularly stress that the local Families Justice Board is the most prominent vehicle for multi-agency collaboration, and so it is. People talk about the family justice system as if there is a system. There isn't. What there is a range of agencies who need to collaborate with each other in order to deliver family justice through their collective endeavors. And historically, as people have got on with each other, by and large, the agencies worked separately and didn't come together very often. One of the real benefits of COVID was that on a day, as it happens, almost the fifth anniversary of which is the day you and I are speaking, Morgan, we started meeting nationally and locally on a daily basis. And then it became every other day, then became every 2 or 3 days, and then every week or so. And nationally and locally, I think that cementing of relationships and degree of collaboration has endured. And I think that's we're in a better position than we were before COVID because of that. What changed was, I think that instead of all working separately in our silos and coming together just simply for the sake of it, we got used to hearing each other's difficulties and joining together to help solve each other's problems in a collective way. And I don't think I've got rose-tinted spectacles on when I say that. I think that's what did happen nationally, and I think it happened locally. And we need to bottle that and make sure that we hang on to that. And that's what ought to be happening in the local family justice boards. And it's only by the local practitioners, the local judiciary, the local social services, the local social workers, the local CAFCAS, getting together regularly and sharing each other's pain and gain that local family justice can be delivered effectively. It's pointless me at the centre or the MOJ at the centre putting out great diktats because the circumstances in each locality are different and they land in different ways. And people don't own the need to comply with them in the same way as if they've all sat around a table locally together and agreed to what they're going to do to improve matters. There's the question of leadership of the local family justice board, which I think is a very key element in determining whether it's going to be successful or not. It's decided that judges shouldn't be the chair of the local family justice board. I think that's right. I think partly constitutionally, the judge shouldn't be responsible for, in some way, as chair, requiring other agencies to work in a particular way. And also the judge has got to have keep a degree of clear blue water between the judge and the others in the system. So that opens up the question, who should chair? And I think the important decision should not be that it should always be the director of social services or the head of CAFCAS or anything like that. The important is to get the right human being, and there'll be different individuals in different localities. But it is a crucial role, and we should cherish and encourage and support local family justice chairs even more than we do. I think one initiative which has really been positive in recent times has been the National Local Family Justice Board conferences, of which we've had two, where we've drawn everyone together to try and deliver messages to everybody in the same room at the same time, and also hear from them what they have to say uh, about matters. But I think the local family justice boards are key. This is a long answer. I'm going to stop after this next bit, Morgan. But I think people might be helped by understanding how it hasn't always worked nationally very well. Um, After the Family Justice Review, the National Family Justice Board was established, and it was decided initially that it was going to be chaired by an independent person, a sort of person like Sir David Norgrove. And then, for reasons which I understand, ministers said no, that it should be the responsibility of ministers. But that leads to difficulties because ministers change and ministers have other duties in between the Family Justice Board meetings. My view is that it would be enormously helpful to have an independent chair whose job it was simply to worry about the family justice world and the Family Justice Board and to be involved in that singular role in between the meetings, because the meetings don't happen very often. I think they're much more effective now. We've had a run of good chairs, and the ministers. I've got no personal criticism about any of the ministers that we've had, and there's an acknowledgement now that nationally we need to keep going. But there was a time, I think, shortly before I became president, where the national board hadn't met for 17 months, and if we're dealing with a family justice system which isn't a system, to have the only umbrella organization that there is not meeting was clearly well, it was very unhelpful indeed. So I've waffled on, Morgan, at length, but I don't think people talk about these issues very much. But I think they're really important. If you can get the thing ticking over well, and there are good professional relationships with the key people and the key agencies in the locality, you're going a very long way to helping to solve whatever the problems are locally, real time when they crop up, and looking forward to planning how things are dealt with in the court and understanding each other and understanding each other's problems, then the system is likely to work better. What I think I would say is to cheer everyone up uh, and say that the statistics are at last, the data at last showing that the backlogs are going down, the time taken in both private law and public law to get through the cases is going down, and family is the only part of the justice system where that can be said, that there are the move is all in the positive direction rather than the more negative direction. And I'm extremely grateful to each and every person who might be watching this, who plays whatever part they play in our non-system, in making the non-system work. I wish to thank them because it's not easy. It's relentless. The burden of the volume of cases will be bearing down on people and have effect on their well-being. And so I'm very grateful to people heeding the calls that I've and others have made over the last 2 or 3 years to tighten things up. Seems to be the wrong thing to say if you're already working too hard to tighten things up. But I think we can see the benefit of it and can see what we need to do to push on. The good news also is, as the Ministry have announced, is that Pathfinder is to be rolled out to further courts. And I think for the whole system, public law and financial remedy and the whole family justice world, to have private law cases dealt with more effectively will be of enormous benefit to the children, which is why we're doing it, and their parents, but as it happens, will free up resources so that we can use them on the cases that do need to be heard in the other parts of the family justice world. So I hope that's a positive note to finish on, Morgan, and that's where I pause.
Thank you very much, President.
Thank you.